Broadcasting live. It's America's longest running talk show on computers. It's Computer America, bringing you the biggest names in technology with guest interviews, new products, and your emails. Listen live at computeramerica.com on any device around the world. Email the show at live@computeramerica.com or find us on social media. Be sure to check out our website for contests, giveaways, show notes, live video stream, podcasts, and more. You're listening to Computer America.
Hello and welcome into the Computer America Show. We are the nation's longest running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology. Thank you for joining us. I'm your host, Ben Crossman. And before we get started, a couple of things. Actually, something that we usually try to do before the show, but unfortunately, we're going to have to try to do this, kind of live because yay radio. And so just give us 1 second as we try to get our guests on the line and make sure that, hey, we have an interview today. So here we go. Let's try this.
Joining conference now.
All right, so it's a conference call. Again, I apologize, but hello, Adam.
Hey.
Hi, hey Adam. So you can hear me just fine. All right, so everyone, that's Adam. We'll introduce him in just a minute. And again, I apologize for the technical difficulties, but you sound good. And everyone else out there, welcome into the Computer America Show. We are the nation's longest running, nationally syndicated radio talk show on computers and technology. I'm your host, Ben Crossman, and we have a show planned for you today that's going to be awesome because in the first segment, we're going to have a company called #Paid. And yeah, they're a company that obviously deals with influencers and, getting brands associated with people who can get the message out. So it's going to be a lot of fun, and we're going to be talking to them in just a minute. In the second part of the program, we'll be covering computer and technology news. And by the way, if you haven't heard Google Voice Assistant's new tricks, you're going to want to definitely stick around for the second part of the show. Very, very interesting. And hey, it's going to be just... really, I will almost say mind-blowing to hear an artificial intelligence sound so human. It's scary. It really is, but it's fun. So, hey, stay tuned for that. And all that and more at computeramerica.com. And you can, of course, go there, check out the show notes. We have a link to our guest website, as well as any stories. Be sure to check out the video portion of the program, as well as the social media contest. So, with all that being said, why don't we just go ahead and get right into our interview? And again, it's a company called #Paid. If you are looking for them, of course, #paid.com. But their logo and everything is # paid. So I want to introduce the co-founder and CSO, Mr. Adam Rivietz, and he is the there you go. And with #Paid. So Adam, I apologize, but welcome onto Computer America.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to hear the questions and share our story with the world.
Yeah, happy that we could have you on. And this is a part of, I think of new business that has a lot of growing to do and has a lot of, I guess because a lot of other mediums, they've found ways to monetize, and those may have changed over the years, but it's something of a known entity with a lot of different mediums. But the idea that you could be a celebrity through, your own work, through other people's platforms, it's kind of a new idea. It's a strange new world. And I'm happy to have you on to talk about, kind of the implications and how you actually turn something that you enjoy doing, maybe in your spare time, and maybe turn that into something that you can then do full time. So let's get a quick overview of, #Paid. Just, what is the company?
Yeah, so at #Paid, we help brands like Toyota, RBC Bank, Coca-Cola, and many more Fortune 1000s and the agencies that represent them streamline and scale their influencer marketing campaigns. Brands and celebrities, really, and the new age celebrity, have always been at the intersection of culture. Brands work with celebrities or work with influencers, or influencers and celebrities are creating content, and they often leverage their favorite products and services that then drive culture forward. People start loving certain products or services. Trends start happening in industries, and that really is caused by this intersection of brands and influencers, or traditionally brands and celebrities. And that's really what we're doing at #Paid, helping drive culture forward by partnering brands and agencies together to create incredible content and distribute it to, everyone on earth.
So there's a lot to break down there in terms of ethics and things like that, and we're going to get into those. But just give me a bit of your background. I mean, how did you find yourself getting involved with this? I mean, are you are you a celebrity in your own right, or were you on the marketing side and said there has to be a better way? I mean, how did you get involved in this?
Funny enough, the answer is none of the above. I actually dropped out of school, dropped out of college back in 2012 when I was starting my third year, or I guess my junior year, sorry. And I dropped out to start an app development agency where I learned the whole economy behind the internet, affiliate marketing, blogging, how you can earn passive income by leveraging the economy that lives behind the internet. And how I first attacked that was by developing apps for the iPhone. In 2013, I set the goal to by my birthday in September, in 9 months, to put out 27 apps on the iPhone. I ended up putting out 23 apps, but regardless, that was my first foray into technology. And during that year, a close friend of mine and now my co-founder, a girl we went to high school with back in Toronto in Canada, where we're both from, she blew up on Instagram. She was going through a very difficult time in her life. She was living an unhealthy life and really wanted to change her entire perspective and start living a healthy, active lifestyle. And her way of holding herself accountable to this goal was by posting on Instagram. Every time she went to the gym, she shot a selfie. Every time she made a healthy meal, she shot a flat lay. And within 6 months, she racked up over 50,000 followers on Instagram. And this is back in the summer of 2013. There weren't many fitness or Fitspo accounts now. And her handle, which is inspired, in past tense with a D, to be fit, was one of those first Fitspo accounts out there. And she didn't do it to make money. She didn't do it for any other reason than personal wellness and a personal goal she had. And that genuine content and notion really showed through to her followers, and it really resonated with people on Instagram, so much so that they started asking her, what protein are you eating and drinking? What gym do you go to? What workout routines are you doing? What sports bras do you wear? And she started endorsing these various products and services without getting paid. And now I didn't mention it, but why I brought it up in the little footnote here is that my app company was actually called Entourage Apps, Entourage being my favorite TV show of all time. And so we called our friend Ronnie and basically said, hey, we want to be your Ari Gold. We want to be your talent agent, and we want to start getting you paid by these brands that you love and use every day and that you're endorsing to your now, 100,000 followers.
I guess this is a pretty good way to, start deviating from our questions here, in that your friend said that she did it because it was something that helped her with her goals and she enjoyed doing it. And I guess people really kind of gravitate to that because it's a passion. It's not something that is, immediately manufactured for their entertainment. It's something that they get to kind of go along with. And, we recently started streaming on Twitch. It's full of people who use their influence with different companies, and at the same time, the way that your friend got into it back then is kind of the same reason we see a lot of people either through Instagram, YouTube, Twitch, Facebook. They get into it for their own reasons, and the least of them was to make money. And now that this market is starting to kind of develop, through companies such as yourself, I mean, I see so many people who look at what your friend has accomplished, what other people have accomplished on these platforms, and say, I want to do that. I want to be the next Instagram model, and I want companies banging on my door to pay me to wear their shoes. Like, it's something that they really want, but and this is maybe a little bit of philosophy, but what do you think is the right attitude to get into, to start to become an influencer? Because, you must work with a lot of different people that do this for a lot of different reasons. What's the right mindset?
Well, first of all, I couldn't agree more. It has always been cool to be sponsored. My co-founder and I skateboarded growing up, and as childhood skateboarders, all we dreamt of was being sponsored by our favorite skate company. You think of professional athletes. They make their salaries from whatever organization they're a part of, whether that's the NHL, NBA, or so on. But then they make a ton of other dollars, if not more money, in the endorsements that they get. So it's always been cool to be sponsored. But now it's not just celebrities or those people that companies have really invested a ton of money in to make them famous. Now anyone in the world can hop on social media, start delivering a message that's meaningful, and then amass an audience and build a voice that they can then distribute whatever message they want to, whether that's sponsored or not. And that's really what keeps me excited and why I love social media. And then tips for influencers, definitely you have to be genuine. You're not going to see the same success if you are just posting and just creating content with the hopes of being sponsored by brands. You may pick up an initial following, but the best influencers, they are authentic and they are doing it for more than just monetary purposes. They have a goal. They love doing something, whatever their talent is, or whatever activity, or whatever they like shooting in terms of photography or videography. There's a purpose to themselves and their content that they create. And then that resonates and shines through to people on Instagram, that they build up this authentic following, and then they start integrating brands. And even on that note, when they start integrating brands, one of the biggest things is the match between the brand and the influencer, and making sure that the influencer genuinely wants to work with that brand or uses that product. And on the flip side, that influencer, that in our case that we would recommend to a client, aligns with that brand and their own brand identity.
No, and those are very good points, because I believe we're going to talk about the difference between, well, actually, I read on your site the difference between selling out and, I believe you used the term sold out. And yeah, it's you can't just throw, maybe like a Coke advert at a strictly fitness, kind of audience, because they're going to, not be the most receptive to sugary drinks. It's little things like that. So let's talk about your website. Of course, again, as I said, #paid, #spelledout.com. Let's talk about the marketing and content platform. So I've just poking around your site. There's two different sides, one for marketers, one for influencers. Talk about what you've kind of built up here with the website, and who should kind of visit it. And I guess, what is each party going to hopefully get out of it?
Definitely. So on the creator side, our goal is to really enable anyone with a significant following on any platform, anywhere on the internet, to monetize that following and create a career or earn a living doing whatever it is they love. That is our mission on the creator side. And then how we act on that mission is by giving them tools and strategy and advice on how to become a professional. It's always been, kind of a running joke that there's a battle between business people and creatives, or the starving artist and the agent or the manager. And we really want to be the talent agent or the manager in their pocket by giving them technology and tools that help them become more professional while still being the creatives that they are. For example, when any influencer signs up on our site, or anyone even listening can go to #paid.com, and right at the bottom of the website, we have a tool called How Much Am I Worth? And most influencers have no idea what their following or their engagements are worth. And so we give them a tool to price themselves out. So whether they're doing collaborations through us or through a third party or just on their own, they at least know what they should be charging a brand. Second to that, we defend their rights when it comes to content creation. influencers provide really a spectrum of a variety of value to brands, but the two main things are the content creation. These influencers have risen to the top of social media because they create such incredible content that really resonates with their audience. So brands can leverage these influencers to A, create content, and to B, distribute that content to their audience. But a lot of influencers don't realize that brands have traditionally paid creative agencies, thousands of dollars for a single photo or hundreds of thousands of dollars for a video. And these influencers will create a piece of content for pennies on the dollar in comparison, but then that brand, or many brands, often, and what we actually recommend, is that they then leverage that content and buy additional ads behind it or use it on their website so that they can take advantage of that likeness, that relationship that they have with the influencers. But the influencers should be compensated in addition to creating that content for the additional impressions that brand might buy or get on that piece of content. For example, if you think traditionally, actors and actresses, they might get paid X amount for a shoot one day, for a commercial shoot, for example, but then they collect royalties every time that commercial airs. And that hasn't completely made its way into the influencer world because influencers don't think like that, and they need companies like #paid to defend their rights and work with them. So that's something that we also offer to creators. On the flip side, on the brand side, we help influencers come up with, at the bare minimum, the strategy of how their brand's messaging will live on social media. Then we recommend the best influencers who relate to their brand, who we know can actually deliver that strategy depending on the social network, the hashtag, the messaging, the target audience, and so on. And we leverage both the technology that we've developed, including Watson AI, that contributes to our matching algorithm, as well as our human expertise. We have a quarter of our team, 25% of the #paid team, are influencers themselves. And they then further curate the list of influencers that our matching algorithm will shortlist. In addition to the recommendations, we then actually execute the entire campaign on our client's behalf using our technology. So if you are a Fortune 1000 brand, oftentimes you either don't have the expertise or you don't have the bandwidth. It takes a lot of human power to execute a influencer campaign. There are so many steps. It's very high touch. So we give our clients one point of contact. They speak to one of our account managers, and whether they're leveraging 10 or 50 influencers, it's seamless and turnkey for them because they only have to speak to one person, and then our team coordinates in the back end, hiring the influencers, contracting the influencers, making sure they're creating the content on time and delivering it on time. We then give the clients the brand safety check. They're able to approve every influencer and every piece of content before it goes live. Then when it goes live, we also track every piece of content, do all of the reporting, and then analyze all of those metrics, both quantitatively and qualitatively, and give feedback to our clients as to what they can do to continuously improve their influencer marketing efforts. And then depending on the client and their goals, craft an always-on strategy that integrates influencers across their entire marketing mix, which is really the future of influencers.
So, and not to categorize all creators in the same bubble, but a lot of them are younger. There's no doubt about it. They either come up organically, or they're part of a I don't want to say that they're all marketers and every influencer you've ever seen is a marketer. No, in fact, a lot of them have almost no experience in that field. So I guess my question would be, how valuable is it to have someone like #paid, the company, to manage things like contracts? Because if you don't expect to make any money, then odds are, if someone comes to you and says, "Hey, how much would you like to be paid to promote our product?" They'll say, "Oh, I don't know, $100 sounds more than fair." And really, it's it should be much more than that. How valuable is it to have someone like #paid to be that knowledgeable agent?
Incredibly valuable to really both sides. On the creator side, as you mentioned, many of them are very young and they are creators first. They're not business people. They're not marketers. And our goal is to make these creators more professional so that brands aren't really taking advantage of them like they have in the past. By defending, again, their rights when it comes to content, by making sure they're getting paid fairly, by giving them tools to work with the best brands that are actually the most relevant to their personal brand. And then on the brand, on the client side, with something as simple as contracts, most brands don't think of all of the little nuances that are required in a contract when working with an influencer. A lot of brands are still gifting influencers free product in exchange for posts. And while that is one technique that can work well for brands, the problem with giving away free product is that you don't have a contract. And when you're a brand, especially the caliber of brands we work with, Fortune 1000s, you have a very stringent brand guideline that you want these influencers to follow. And when you have a contract, you can make sure that that influencer is at a certain place at the right time, shooting a piece of content that you know is going to be high quality, that they're going to post it at the appropriate time, that you're going to pay them and actually get something of value in return, versus sort of the spray and pray mentality where you send out a ton of free product that still costs you money, hoping that an influencer posts, and then hoping that what they do post is both delivering the right message on brand and not actually, hurting your brand. So contracts are so important, and we've dealt with thousands of influencers and written up hundreds of contracts. So that's one value that we add to the brands. But really what we've seen over the last few years is that usually the bigger the brand, the less expertise they have, and the bigger the agency that we work with, the less bandwidth they have. And so we are really both the experts and that additional bandwidth that lets them streamline and scale massive programs. It's not difficult to go on Instagram, find one or two influencers and contract them and deal with that. But when you have 10, 15, 25, 50 influencers creating hundreds of pieces of content that you need posted on a certain day at a certain time in sequence that are really going to drive your marketing objectives home at a large scale, you need a third party who's an expert that can do that for you, or at minimum a piece of technology that can help an internal team execute these large-scale, high-touch programs.
Right. And just because of the nature of our radio program, we've dealt with advertising campaigns. They, some of them can get very specific. They're very controlling. Others are just kind of hands off. They're like, hey, get the message out as best as you can. But having that level of, hands-on, very, very important for, certain companies. So, and I mean, when you're dealing with influencers, especially when you do broad segments like fitness or gaming or, just any other, or makeup or, things that are really, really popular. You mentioned something, I think it was like human bandwidth, the idea that, these marketing agencies just don't have the time in the day to message maybe all of the people that could potentially work for them, and then maybe they might miss out on the perfect people. You mentioned some kind of a Watson AI in the background. How's that working out? Just mixing that AI touch with the human touch. Have you seen a lot of good results from that?
It is absolutely mandatory in this day and age. If you think of, not too long ago, the adpocalypse, as they called it, with regards to Google, the company on earth that arguably has more data than anyone, their biggest advertisers were pulling back dollars because even Google couldn't programmatically distribute their ads on the appropriate YouTube channels. So much so that these brands were at one point these brands were having their ads distributed programmatically to over 5,000 YouTube channels, but then these advertisements were showing up next to very inappropriate content. And then as a stopgap and as a solution, these advertisers said, hey, Google, if you want our dollars, you need to have humans hand selecting the top 500 accounts that we should be running our ads on. And that just shows that no matter how big a company, technology cannot cover every single issue, especially with regards to brand safety. So for us, we have now over 15,000 influencers in over 100 countries. Our technology, anyone, anytime, anyone listening can go to our website and visit #paid.com/RFP, where it's a brief template that we've crafted that asks all of the appropriate questions that we need answered to craft a proposal. But more importantly, behind that brief template actually sits our matching algorithm that is powered by Watson AI. And what that does is it, in real time, filters through our roster of over 15,000 influencers and shortlists a top 100 based on the criteria that the brand typed in. And then that's when the human element comes in, and they will, our creator relations team, who again are all influencers themselves, they then view this top 100 and curate a top 20 or so, depending on how large the program is that we're working on, and then we give the recommendations to our clients. So it's both a combination of the technology and the managed service. The technology adds the efficiency so that a human being doesn't have to scroll through 15,000 people,
Right.
but they still give that human touch and that expertise to curate the top 20 out of that 100, out of that 15,000.
No, and that is that's quite incredible because it's I can't imagine having to go through that many companies to really narrow it down. So and just talk about some of the talk about some of the influencers, talk about some of the brands that you've kind of worked with, because obviously working with, I don't know, a phone case company is one thing, but managing you mentioned 100 different countries. Sometimes you have campaigns. I'm sorry to keep picking on Coke because they're just, I think, the most recognizable brand out there in the world. But there's a difference between something like a phone case company and Coca-Cola. Who have you worked with, and I mean, how big can you scale?
Yeah, so I mean, in terms of brands, as I mentioned earlier, we work with many of the top Fortune 1000s. Toyota, Coca-Cola, Pepsi was, funny enough, our first client. We work with every Canadian bank, whether TD, RBC, CIBC, and so on. We work with electronics companies. Xbox and Microsoft were an early client. In the quick service restaurant space, we've worked with KFC and Taco Bell. In the beverage space, we've worked with many different alcohol brands who, are very limited as to where and how they can advertise, but social media has given them the opportunity to, kind of break through those regulations in some cases and tell a slightly different story than they've traditionally been telling. And then on the influencer side, our minimum to qualify as an influencer is about 5,000 followers, but we do work with influencers up to 5 million, sometimes 10 million followers. One that immediately comes to mind is Weekly Chris. His family, they're 4 siblings. They are all influencers themselves, ranging from 250,000 to 10 million followers, maybe even more now. And Chris Collins, or Christian Collins, his handle is Weekly Chris. He's the most famous in the family. He was recently signed by Randy Jackson of American Idol, and he has done a variety of campaigns for us. He was actually on our first Xbox campaign. We paid him a nice chunk of change, and he was so satisfied with the experience that he said, "Hey, I love you guys. I love the company. I'd love to invest in the company if possible." And coincidentally, we were raising our angel round at the time, and this is several years ago, but he was 20 years old, realized the value that we were offering influencers, and said, "Hey, keep the check that you were about to write me and put it in on your round." And he became an investor, and now both an investor, advisor, and a close friend of the company. And so we offer value to different influencers at different stages in their career. When you're early on at the 5 to maybe 25,000 range, your needs are very different than someone who has 1 million+ followers. And so we really are constantly incubating smaller influencers and monitoring the biggest influencers to make sure that they keep trending upward and that they're doing the right things to keep their following engaged, and that they're not posting too many sponsored posts or too much sponsored content,
Right.
Because they don't. There's so many nuances to working with influencers, as I mentioned. But our sweet spot is probably between 25,000 and 250,000 followers,
And
somewhere around the
Adam,
mid.
I hate to kind of cut you off there, but we're about to head off into break. That's what the music means. Would you mind staying over so we can finish up our conversation?
Sorry, would I mind?
Would you mind staying over? We're about to head off to break.
Yeah, sure.
Perfect. All right, everyone stay tuned. Computer America, #paid. Everyone stay tuned.
Greece is cheap.
But the airfare costs a fortune.
Paris?
Not much closer, and again, airfare...
What about Puerto Vallarta?
Let's face it, flying anywhere is just too expensive.
Wait, what's this? Low-cost airlines.
With one call to low-cost airlines, you'll drastically slash your travel costs. We're talking insanely low airline prices to any of your favorite destinations. Where would you like to go? London, Rome, Costa Rica, Australia?
Wow, that's cheap.
So why wait? Call now to learn how crazy cheap it is to fly anywhere in the U.S. or international. Our prices are so low, we can't publish them. The only way to get them is to call to instantly hear the most amazing best deals on airline travel. It's that easy. So call now and start packing.
800-215-4461. 800-215-4461. 800-215-4461. That's 800-215-4461.
We are all Brother Wolf. 10 years ago, a group of locals banded together to create positive change. We took animals into our homes, held adoption events at local retailers, and talked to the community about our mission to help build a no-kill Asheville. A decade later, we have achieved so many victories for animals in need. There's been so much progress, yet there's still so much to do. As part of our year-long celebration, we encourage you to become a member of our special Compassionate Circle program. With a monthly donation of $10 or more, you will have behind-the-scenes access to the work we are doing at Brother Wolf. Our goal is to reach 1,000 members because we receive no government funding. Working together, we can help build and sustain no-kill communities. Learn more at compassionatecircle.bwar.org. We are a 501c3 tax-deductible organization.
And welcome back to the Computer America Show. It is 32 minutes past the hour as we continue on here, and we're going to wrap this up. And Adam, I apologize for kind of cutting you off there, and thank you for staying over. But I believe you're talking about that balance, that nuance, and I guess you also would give some kind of advice to influencers about the fact that you can't just, once you develop the audience, you can't just go out there and be like, every single post is now, hashtag sponsored, and, I'm going to make so much money. Like, it's not about it. You really have to stick to your message. And, the thing that attracted people to you, I guess, and I assume that you would agree, you still have to stick to your message. Is just, hey, here are some companies
Definitely.
that would align themselves with that message.
Exactly.
All right.
It's all about being authentic.
Right. And
True to yourself, true to your brand, and true to your audience.
Very well said. Perfect. And so let's talk about real quick. I mean, again, just kind of poking around your website, and as I said, you have it kind of split up for, of course, marketers and creators. What about maybe smaller companies that are looking to kind of get a foothold? There are a number of different ways to go about advertising. Obviously, we're dealing with influencers on this one, but why would you maybe, maybe there are companies out there that are in some kind of niche. Maybe they're sneakers, maybe, of course, we're Computer America, so we're talking probably keyboards, mice, and monitors. But for these smaller companies, why should they go the route of influencers as opposed to, I don't know, maybe a television commercial spot, or hey, to shoot myself in the foot here, but why, maybe instead of radio, why is going with influencers so much different or better than other forms of advertising?
Oh, wow. There are 5 million things percolating in my brain right now. I don't know where to start. First and foremost, influencers are one of the most cost-effective ways to create a ton of content at scale and then distribute that content in an authentic way. So if you think of the top brands of this day and age that started on the internet, Warby Parker, Daniel Wellington, Dollar Shave Club. These are billion-dollar companies that started really with online marketing, mostly on social, leveraging influencers. So much so that if you think of Daniel Wellington, they actually have watch lines now solely crafted by the influencer, and it's like ex-influencer's name line. So they realized the value of influencers early on, took advantage of the opportunity, and worked with hundreds of influencers, then tested them, and whichever ones performed best, they then continued going down that path with them. So if you're a smaller brand and you're just getting into social media, who's creating the content on your Instagram account? Who's creating the videos on your YouTube account? If you tried to hire a creative agency, they would charge you far beyond any budget that a startup has. But if you had an intern, or you just have additional time on your hands during the crazy day-to-day of running a startup, you can go by yourself and scroll through Instagram, find people who create content that align with your brand, reach out to them. Now it's as simple as sliding in their DM, so to speak, and saying, hey, I love your style. This is what my brand's about. I'd give you X amount of dollars and potentially free product to create content for me at scale. So I, as the marketer, now have at least a piece of content to post daily on my Instagram account, and content potentially for my website, for banner ads that I might put additional dollars behind on other social networks. It is a great way to create content, cost-effective price, and you're essentially crowdsourcing it. So if you're a brand that plans to launch in the summer, for example, or your product is summer-related, but you're working in the winter before your launch, it's going to be very difficult for you to walk outside in a Toronto or New York winter and take summer-style shots. But you could now leverage an influencer on the other side of the world who's in a warm country to create that content for you. So that's the content creation side, and that's why they're called creators. It's why they've risen to the top of social media. On the flip side, distribution. There's so much clutter. We, especially millennials and younger, and really everyone, we're hit with so many advertisements a day. There's so many brands. There's so many places to consume content. And most people are consuming their content now, especially millennials and younger, on mobile. And where are they spending their time on mobile? On social. And who did we just realize are the kings of social? Influencers. So if you can leverage an influencer who, again, relates to your brand, who aligns with the message you're trying to deliver, they can tell your story arguably better than you can, because they've already built up that audience who ideally is your target audience, and you get to parlay that relationship that they've already developed to integrate your message into that conversation and really break through that clutter of all the noise that people are being, blasted with all day and every day. So it's an authentic way to deliver a message to an audience that's already so engaged with that influencer.
And there's recently been a couple of laws passed. There were some, I believe it was the Federal Communications Commission changed recently about yeah, it essentially reining in what was the Wild Wild West. I'm sure by the time that you guys were dealing in this, it was that you could just, hey, you could call up Kim Kardashian. You could say, we have this new form of skin conditioner, and we want you to use it in in an Instagram video. And they'd be like, all right, send us $1 million. You send $1 million, and unbeknownst to anyone, you made this deal, and now she's targeting it to her audience. Something like that was totally acceptable a couple years ago. Nowadays, I believe anything that money changes hands has to be, kind of tagged in some way to show that this was, this is a sponsored piece of content. This is a part of an advertisement. And I guess they're really trying to crack down on the idea that this guerrilla marketing, maybe it was a little bit too effective. Maybe it was a bit underhanded. That's not a bad thing. That's not a bad thing that you see where companies are spending their money to try to get you to take notice of them. And I, personally, like I said on Twitch, there's a lot of ideas about selling out. And, for me, just maybe just because of the industry I'm in, I always found that the idea of selling out, while there's there's an extreme case you can take it to, in a lot of cases, I can't think of anything more enjoyable than being able to make a living off of what you do. And companies that help you do that, that sounds amazing. That's great on those companies. Talk about, this idea and, just advertising in the space. What is the difference between selling out and actually, again, kind of making a living?
For sure. So what you were talking about in the beginning is the law that's called mandatory disclosure. So in the United States, for at least the last 2, if not 3+ years, the Federal Trade Commission has mandated that if you pay or even now gift, if you compensate an influencer and they post about you, it must be disclosed that that post was paid for. That's actually one of the reasons why our company is called #paid, because in the FTC's guidelines, they said that you can use 3 hashtags to disclose a post is paid for. #ad, #sponsored, and of course, #paid. So we as a company have always enforced mandatory disclosure in every country, whether the ad is targeting the U.S. or not. Mm-hmm. We actually have also, as I mentioned, my co-founder and I are from Toronto. I now live in New York and run our New York office, but our VP of marketing and our company have actually become the chair of the board of ad standards, which is the equivalent to FTC in Canada, and we are actually crafting the law with the government on how mandatory disclosure will roll out in Canada. There's government organizations in Europe and every other part of the world that are also crafting laws or have already crafted laws, because consumers don't want to be duped or tricked into buying a product. And what also has come, when you think of, 4 years ago, to your last point about selling out versus actually driving value.
Right.
3, 4, 5 years ago, the industry was at a totally different point where the followers and consumers didn't understand that these influencers are spending so much time and effort creating content so that we can all enjoy it, and didn't understand that they need to earn a living somehow. Now, with all of the press around the industry, with TV shows and documentaries and movies now about influencers and their influence and everything that they do from a content creation and distribution standpoint, I believe, my personal opinion, and we've really just seen a shift as well. You can see it in comments on any sponsored post. There's been a huge shift in the last couple of years of the general public's perception of sponsored posts. It used to be, oh, I love following you. You're putting an ad in your feed. You're a sellout. Right. Now it's, I understand that you spend 24 hours a day, 365 days a year thinking about the content to create that I can enjoy. So I understand that you need to earn a living. I now actually wish I could do the same as a follower, and that's why so many people want to be influencers. But the general public has realized that in order for this content to keep coming and for these influencers to do what they love and that we then get to enjoy, they need to earn a living, and how they're doing that is with sponsored posts. And And as long as the influencers are keeping it authentic and having a good ratio of sponsored to organic posts, followers seem to be happy with the state of the influencers that they're following.
And I'm sure for our audience, because as I said, it's not so much about, for a lot of people, it's about seeing these and they're like, oh, that's very cool. But then there's another subset of our audience that I'm sure is listening to this and go, man, if only I had 25,000 followers, I could do this too. And it's a great way to earn a living. It's, but no, it's, I'm sure that I could keep you on for much, much longer to talk about the ins and the outs of, consumers becoming a part of this and brands. But I'll just go ahead and leave you with the last word. If content creators are out there listening, or if brands are out there listening, where can they go and hey, what can they do on your site?
Yeah, so content creators can definitely visit our site. They can find out what they're worth. They can sign up and potentially get, brand opportunities, collaboration opportunities from Fortune 1000 companies. But what they should also do is read our blog. We have influencers every week from our community, from our internal team, writing blog posts, educating the world on how they can become influencers. And if you think a few years back, it used to be very competitive between influencers. And now what the smaller influencers are realizing is it needs to be collaborative. One of the best ways to grow your following is by working with other influencers who might be in a similar but different vertical. If you're fashion, work with a beauty influencer. If you're lifestyle, you can work with a food influencer, for example. And if you share content and tag each other and collaborate, you're going to end up growing your following that much quicker. And you can read about that tip and many other tips on the #paid website throughout our blog. And again, these articles are not just written by a marketer. They are actually written by influencers themselves who have grown followings from 5,000 to hundreds of thousands, if not millions.
Right. So no, and very good advice. It will, of course, have a link to your website available at computeramerica.com on the homepage. Stays up there for about 2 weeks. And in the meantime, I will say I apologize for keeping you over. It was a very interesting conversation. So I felt it was completely justified. But everyone, Mr. Adam Rivietz, and he is the co-founder and CSO of #paid. So Adam, again, thanks for coming on Computer America. This was a lot of fun.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. And if anyone has follow-up questions, you guys can even reach me personally at adam@paid.com. I'm happy to answer or guide you in the right direction to someone on our team who can help you, whether you are a marketer or a creator.
There you go. Very, very generous offer. So, and Adam, until next time, thank you so much. And hey, have a good day.
You too.
All right. Bye-bye.
See ya.
All right, everyone. So there he goes. And yeah, you can check that out. Again, #paid, all spelled out.com. And in the meantime, we are going to go ahead and move on to computer and technology news. But if you missed any part of that interview, feel free to go back and check. Of course, we have the podcast version of the show, which is available anywhere where podcasts are heard. Simply download it, and it is the show's entirety rebroadcast to the likes of iTunes, Google Play, SoundCloud, so on and so forth. Check it out. Yeah, let's go ahead and do computer technology news because there's a couple of stories I really wanted to do. And yeah, we're going to get to them, dagnabbit. So here we go. So for our first story today, we are going to do this one. And this is about Google Assistant. And we're going to try our best to make sure that this goes out and everything works as intended. Let's see if we can do this. But so, and by the way, Computer Technology News, speaking of sponsored content, is brought to you by OWC. They make a lot of great products, again, kind of in the Apple vein, but they have plenty of Windows products. So if you're looking for new hardware, hey, check out OWC. You won't be disappointed. All right, but yeah, I really wanted to get to this one because it was a very interesting idea where Google and the voice assistant, there's been a lot of news about Google lately because they just had their Google I/O event. It's where they show off what they've been doing. It's a pep rally. It's a time for Google to show off and say, hey, look, investors, we're doing stuff. And this is a pretty cool one. So let's see if...
Hi, I'm calling to book a women's haircut
Yes.
for a client.
All right, so this is Google Assistant, and they have the CEO, Mr. Sundar Pichai, and he is up on stage at Google I/O, and that was just a little excerpt from the video, and we're going to go ahead and play the phone call. And this is someone, and just to give you a bit of background, someone simply asked their Google Assistant to schedule them a haircut. That's it. That's all they said, was Google, schedule me a haircut appointment for, sometime between 10 and noon. So that's all the information that the Google Assistant has to work on. And if I can find the correct spots, this is what happened. And again, remember, there's going to be two females. One of the females asking the questions about setting up the appointment is going to be a virtual assistant, an artificial intelligence, not a real person. And so this is what happened. Here we go.
So how can I help you? Hi, I'm calling to book a women's haircut for a client. I'm looking for something on May 3rd.
Sure, give me 1 second.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, what time are you looking for around?
At 12 p.m.
We do not have a 12 p.m. available. The closest we have to that is a 1:15.
Do you have anything between 10 a.m. and 12 p.m.?
Depending on what service she would like. What service is she looking for?
Just a woman's haircut for now.
Okay, we have a 10 o'clock.
10 a.m. is fine.
Okay, what's her first name?
The first name is Lisa.
Okay, perfect. So I will see Lisa at 10 o'clock on May 3rd.
Okay, great.
And we're going to stop it there. But that was a conversation between an artificial intelligence and someone, of course, making the appointment for the company. And I feel like if I didn't say enough beforehand about one of these is not a real person, you could very easily see where you forget that one of them is, in fact, an artificial intelligence, not actually real. And it was very impressive. You heard a little bit of a laugh when she gave, the artificial intelligence gave that little auditory cue that when she said, could you hold on a moment? And the AI knew that maybe a person would actually say, or some kind of way to say, I acknowledge, but didn't actually say, I am robot number 344. I will wait a minute. It was, yes, I for one welcome our new robot overlords. Correct. It's this idea that AI is going to work not with itself over and over again in the background, but it's going to work with people. And it doesn't just have to be a seamless experience for someone who is maybe controlling the AI, but someone who has to interact with the AI. And again, in this case, interacting with them to make an appointment. So to be clear, the Google CEO mentioned that this was very much in development. Currently, they're using it to make appointments or scheduling things like restaurant reservations or haircuts or meetings, things like that. But you can see where they're going with it. You can see the next steps of artificial intelligence and how it's going to interact with our daily lives. It's not just going to be about, hey, order something online and have it sent to my door, or schedule me a meeting. It's that these AIs are going to know your schedule, your preferences. They're going to know what you like to do and what are your certain needs, and then they'll just fill them out. It'll be just like someone thinking everything about you and making everything as convenient as possible. That's kind of the promise of Google, and that's kind of what we saw there. And again, they're doing it with a very humanoid voice. So, and we have another article. I don't think we're going to actually do it, but Google's Assistant is actually going to have six different voices, including, I think it was musician John Legend. So Yeah, it's very, very impressive. Can't really wait to see what Google does with it, but it's that phone call was very, very spooky. So there's that one, and let's see. Let's do a recap here because we probably should. It's Microsoft. They make a lot of news, and this is a recap of everything that happened at the Microsoft Builder event, or Microsoft Build 2018. So lately, I think Apple comes up here soon, but Google just had theirs. You heard a segment from that. This is Microsoft's event. Apple has one. Everyone kind of comes out and says what they're planning on doing over the course of the next year. And this is a highlight of Microsoft, where they said that this is coming to us from The Verge, by the way, Mr. Jacob Kasternex, and they say that after 2 days of Microsoft Build keynotes, we've seen a lot, cloud APIs, live coding demonstrations, and of course, they have a demo meeting room. And we heard a couple of those. Unfortunately, we just haven't had time to cover it on the show. So here are some highlights as they kind of say. And one of them is that your phone syncs with Windows, saying that your phone that can sync Android phones and iPhones with Windows 10, where you'll be able to use the app to send text messages, access your photos, and view mobile notifications on your computer. And of course, it's a big convenience if you find yourself out on the road a lot and you just want to, kind of sync your phone and get on with it. I know that traditionally with iPhones, you had to strictly use the iTunes, of course, thing. And you probably will still have to use iTunes if you want to actually set up and things like that. But as for the data, it's pretty cool that Windows is finally allowing you to do that. The next one is Cortana and Alexa will work together. Speaking of AI, the other two artificial intelligence there's of course Alexa, there's Google, and then of course there's Cortana, and I believe there's one more. The Apple Home Assistant. But at any rate, Cortana seems to be doing a little bit of piggybacking with Alexa, and Alexa, of course, being the Amazon Echo voice assistant. Where Windows 10 has Cortana. She's not very smart. No one ever speaks really highly of Cortana. But at the same time, if she can interact with Alexa, then it's kind of like getting a leapfrog where, hey, whatever Alexa can do, now Cortana can do. Now, and you can say things such as Alexa, open Cortana, or Cortana, open Alexa, and each one will open the other. So they said it's in a limited beta and potentially will be coming, but AI integration, great thing. You don't want that segment, or you don't want to segment your user base. Very important. So there's that one. Timeline for iOS and Android. Whatever. So that was announced. Microsoft offers developments more money than Apple or Google. And that's an important thing, is that yes, a part of it is about who's going to have a bigger audience to reach. If you're developing an app that you are going to sell, you're going to want to develop for the most people. And in many cases, when it comes to apps, iTunes has been the number one. Google Store is, of course, crowded with apps, but people still put them on there because Android phones are so popular. Looks like Microsoft is trying everything, and I guess this would be a last-ditch effort. They're going to throw more money at them. They're going to throw more money at them to allow them to take a 30% cut of money and apps bring in. And that's still largely true, but Microsoft is about to make a big change where Microsoft will only take a 5% cut and the developer will receive 95% of the money. So 30% is pretty standard. That goes for a lot of things, but 30% down to 5%, Microsoft is clearly saying, we're going to take the bare minimum. You're going to take the bulk of your money that you actually earn. Just please, 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 please come to our app store. That seems to be the big message that they're sending with that. And hey, it might just work. It might work. Let's see. So some of the last ones, we're going to have to wrap this up here soon. Way more powerful tabs, where they said that you'll be able to create a set of tabs in a single window. Many different applications native to Windows are going to have tabs alongside them. And hey, tabs are just going to be everywhere. So that's pretty cool. Connect, the Microsoft Xbox Connect, while killed, is now alive in the cloud. And that's going to be available to researchers. And then, of course, a lot more to come, as Microsoft always says. But there you go. Hey, music means that we are done here, and I want to thank all of you for tuning in. Thank you for joining us here on Computer America, and happy that you could. I want to thank our guest, #paid. They were a lot of fun and very, very interesting to talk to. And in the meantime, everyone, thank you for tuning in to Computer America. Catch us live Monday through Friday, 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern, as we have a new show for you every single day of the week. And in the meantime, hey, catch us at computeramerica.com, catch our podcast, catch our video, and have a great day. Be sure to tune in tomorrow on the program, where we have another great guest. And let's see if we can pull that up real quick. Tomorrow's guest will be Miss Sandy Berger. She is our consumer electronics correspondent. So until next time, everyone, have a great day. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.